Welcome to the Holiday Podcast, where we sit over homemade challah on Friday afternoons at my table. I'm your host, Tammy Priest, a Jewish follower of Jesus, and it's great to be with you today as we talk again about this intersection between the old and the new. Well, yesterday was Purim, the festival celebrating Queen Esther and her cousin Mordecai and the way God rescued his people in Persia during the exile. And so instead of baking challah, I've been baking these traditional Purim cookies called Hamantashen. Haman or Haman for the villain of the story, and Tashen, which means hat. And it's named that to represent the three-sided hat that Haman supposedly wore. So these cookies are filled with a variety of fillings, the traditional poppy seed and apricot preserves, and I also make raspberry and Nutella, which is a favorite with the kids, and a few with caramel, actually, for one special friend every year. Anyway, every year I bake these cookies just for my family, my friends, and I'll usually take them into work. But this year, something popped up on my Instagram feed that really inspired me. So a nonprofit in Poland started this network of bakers all around the world to bake these Hamantashen, these cookies, and then donate the profits to a fund for assisting Ukrainian refugees at the Polish border. And during this whole time of feeling pretty helpless as we watch things unfold in Ukraine, I thought, I can do that to help. So I linked an order form to my Facebook and Instagram page, and in less than 3 hours I had to shut it down because I committed to making over 300 cookies, close to 400 really. It was a lot of work, but it was really special for me. I was using my Grandma Arlene's recipe, as I always do, and my great-grandma Molly's flour scoop, and I was wearing my Grandma Marion's apron, which I'll add a picture of at the end of the podcast. But I didn't even realize until my daughter pointed it out that the apron is covered in sunflowers, which is the national flower of the Ukraine, and it's the colors of the Ukrainian flag, which may be why my Grandma Marion liked it, since her family has some roots in both Ukraine and Poland. And Russia too. Both my parents' families came to the US from those places, as well as Germany and Austria for some of them. So I thought a lot about my family while I was making these cookies, helping these refugees who may actually be distant relatives of mine. This has really meant a lot to me. So thank you to all of you who were part of this special project. Well, as I was baking all week, I thought a lot about the whole history and meaning of Purim against the backdrop of Putin and his invasion of Ukraine, which is why we're baking these this week in the first place. There are so many similarities between what happened in Persia and what is happening in the Ukraine. But a major one is that basically there's this government leader, in this case Haman, who's more concerned about power than caring for people. And when he doesn't get the power or honor or allegiance that he thinks he deserves, he attacks the people that defy him, even if it means attacking and killing a nation of people, which is what Haman tried to do, and basically is what Putin is trying to do now. But what I wanted to focus on, and what I thought about all week as I became part of this network of bakers, is just two little verses that are kind of bookends to Haman's decree of death for God's people and God's decree of rescue near the end of chapter 8 in the book of Esther. So when Haman's decree of death went out. Scripture says that the entire city of Shushan was dumbfounded. So the word for city here refers to kind of the lower city where people lived. It was a residential area, not the area of government. So what Haman was decreeing was so shocking and so horrible that the entire city was dumbfounded. All of them, not just the Jewish people. So one commentator made the comment that this was really the low point in this whole series of events, because escape seemed impossible since decrees back then cannot be reversed. But then, after Haman is exposed by Esther and he's executed, the king has Mordecai, Esther's cousin, who is an official in the king's court, send out another decree that says God's people, the Jewish people, are allowed to defend themselves if anyone tries to carry out the first decree from Haman. So basically reversing the first by warning people to not even try. And so at the end of chapter 8, we read that the city of Shushan rang with joyous cries. The Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. So we see that in the first case, even the people who weren't targeted by Haman were shocked and upset at what was happening to their neighbors. And then when the rescue is announced, everyone rejoices with God's people. And that to me is such a picture of what's been happening these last few weeks as Ukrainians are under attack, including a maternity hospital and a shelter for civilians and all these escape routes. I mean, you know all of this. But so as all of this is happening, people around the world are coming together to help our neighbors, our fellow human beings who are under attack. And I think it's a great picture and reminder that we are to care for our neighbors, our fellow image bearers, against harm and injustice, no matter who they are. Just like Jesus taught in his lesson about the Good Samaritan, right? One really cool thing, though, that I just had to add is that this verse, the Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. This verse is recited every week at the end of the Sabbath. It's called the Havdalah service. And so as Sabbath ends, we're reminded of the joy that comes with God's rescue. But also during the service, there's a song that is sung, and it's about the prophet Elijah. It's really simple. It's just Elijah the prophet, Elijah the Tishbite, Elijah of Gilead. May he soon come to be among us, along with the Messiah, the son of David. And we also sing this at Passover. But so we end the Sabbath remembering God's rescue long ago in Persia, while also looking forward to the future rescue of the Messiah. Now, for those of us who follow Jesus, we see the arrival of Elijah's spirit in John the Baptist, announcing the Messiah's arrival, and we see Elijah himself up on the mountain with Jesus transfigured, right? And so for us, on this Sabbath Eve today, I pray that we would take time to think back on God's rescue back in Persia and on his rescue back on Calvary. And that thinking about these rescues would bring light and gladness and happiness and honor, not because of our circumstances, but because death's decree has been reversed. And we are given the honor of finding our identity in the name of God on this holiday and on every single day. Shabbat Shalom.